Well, on today's show, Tesco and Lidl are in the crap, Reform trying to poach MPs, Tommy's arrest, Boris Johnson apparently got thrown under the bus, more migrant backlash, band which should have been coming has been banned, and much, much more. Let's begin. Okay, first up we've got Tommy Robinson. Now apparently he was arrested the other day for attending a protest. Well, actually, technically, he was arrested for breaking a Section 35, which for all those who don't know, is basically a disbursement order which the police give you and basically states that if you don't leave the area within a certain time, then you can be nicked for it. But the thing is, why did he even get one of these in the first place? Most of the time, of course, it is because people are causing trouble, but according to the article, that is not why he got one. And that is because in the article, the Met Police said in a statement, "We have been in frequent contact with the organisers in the march in recent days. And they have been clear about their concerns that the man's attendance," Tommy Robinson I'm guessing, "and that of those who are likely to accompany him would cause fear for other participants. And the same view has been voiced by others." Now, obviously it's not very nice to feel threatened or anything like that at all, and laws are there to protect that. However, this is remembered before he even turned up, so can they predict the future or something? And yes, I know some people out there will say, well, they'll probably go by how he was recently, but the thing is, that is obviously a different time. I mean, you can't accuse someone of a crime before they've even committed it, can you? You have to give people benefit of the doubt. And remember, people do have a right to protest, whether you like them or not. I can't remember any such fuss caused for any Ramonas out there who were against Brexit at the time, but I personally think he should at least been given the chance to act in a sensible manner in the protest rather than being denied it altogether. And remember, we have seen countless times in protests in recent weeks where people have climbed statues and destroyed things. I'm guessing none of them were banned from any future protests, were they? So to ban him or give him a disbursement order before he's even done anything is a bit too far in my opinion. So if that was the case, I personally don't think that should have happened at all. And the article continues that the Metropolitan Police had made it clear in advance that he was not welcome at the march, with the force warning that any offences, whether from within the protest or from any groups trying to challenge or interfere with the march, would be dealt with. Police later confirmed a 40-year-old man had been arrested close to the Royal Courts of Justice, and it has not been confirmed if the man referred to in the statement is Mr Robinson. Well, to be honest, I'm guessing it was, because he was apparently nicked. Okay, next up we've got Tesco's and Lidl. So what have they done? They're both in a bit of trouble, it seems. Tesco, I'm afraid, appears in this article, it seems to be one of the worst off, because it says that products are being recalled. Now, we often hear about this, don't we, where for one reason or another something isn't right, and this time it seems that Tesco has sold us some dodgy peas from their value range. And the article says that the FSA, which stands for the Food Standards Agency, said that Tesco is recalling Growers Harvest Garden peas because of the possible contamination with an unknown type of berry which may make its product unsafe to eat. Well, isn't that just lovely, eh? All the time that you might think your wife's cooking is to blame for your illness, it might actually be Tesco. So I guess, guys, buying some flowers might be in order from us. But it's okay, because I've got some good news. I personally buy these type of peas because, well, I'm a bit of a tight ass. And I so far have not been on the toilet yet, or been sick in any way at all for eating them. But then again, I'm kind of like Superman, so I might be alright. But I'll put on here what the affected batches are. And the thing is, if you have got one of these, you don't even need a receipt. You can just go to them with your bag of peas, whack them on the table, in a nice way of course, and say, can you give me a refund please, because these peas are dodgy. In fact, they're more dodgier than Rishi's backhand deals, and that's saying something, isn't it? Lidl, what have they done? Well, the article says that the FSA, the Food Standards Agency, said that Lidl is recalling Bravermore 2 duck breast fillets with plum, soy and ginger sauce sachet, and also Bravermore 2 duck breast fillets skin on and boneless because salmonella has been found in the products. Well, to be honest, I don't know which one's worse. Either Tesco had an unknown stuff which may or may not make us feel sick, or actually having salmonella in your food. Oh, to be honest with you, either one is bound to be better than my girlfriend's cooking, but I'm dead. Either way, I'll put them on there, and as before, you can take them back without a receipt. You'd think though, wouldn't you, that certain checks would be put in place to make sure these things don't actually slip through the net and put us at risk in the first place. So some sort of changes need to be put in place, in my opinion, to make sure that this doesn't really happen again, because let's face it, the last thing Tesco's or even Lidl or any other supermarket needs is us sitting on the toilet rather than going to their shops. Okay, next up we've got Reform apparently trying to buy MPs, which Richard Tice has apparently said, no, I didn't do that, although Lee Anderson kind of said he did. So the thing is, it does make me wonder if, Richard Tice was even made aware of this offer that had taken place, because Lee Anderson says he was offered £80,000 for 5 years to jump ship from the Conservatives and join Reform UK, which to be honest would be a brilliant thing for him to do in my opinion. The Conservatives do seem like they're on their way out, don't they, with Rishi as their leader. It does make me wonder though if Lee is staying because he might think that Rishi will leave at the next election, which will more than likely be the case in my opinion, and then even he might attempt to become the Tory leader in the next leadership contest, which will more than likely soon happen after Rishi's demise. But the article says that the Sunday Times reported that Mr Anderson, a Tory deputy chairman who has represented Ashfield since 2019, claimed in October that he was offered a lot of money to join the Nigel Farage-linked party. Mr Tice on Sunday, though, rejected the claim reportedly made by Mr Anderson at the South Cambridgeshire Conservative Association event last month. So from what I've heard, this isn't the only time that Lee has jumped ship. Didn't he used to be a Labour person at once upon a time and then obviously realised that they didn't exactly meet his expectations and then went over to the Conservatives? And he's been making a few waves since then, and personally I think he's saying all the right things. It just makes me hope that his actions will follow his words, because so far it seems with quite a lot of the time we hear big bold speeches from Conservative members of government, don't we, but no little action. But if Lee did become the leader of the Conservative Party, then he'd certainly have to put his money where his mouth is, wouldn't he? Can anyone remember that ever controversial smoking ban that Rishi seems to be trying to steamroll through, saying that anyone born after 2009, I think it is, can't smoke forever in their lifetimes? Well, apparently Australia's doing a similar thing, or should I say was, because apparently their ban, which apparently is brought in under the Jacinda Ardern-led authority, was apparently designed to make tax cuts as well. The article says it's reducing the leading cause of preventable deaths in the country. But the new laws would have seen people born after 2008, not like 2009 like ours, stopped from buying tobacco, but they've scrapped it. Completely, it's gone. So now that Australia's scrapped it, it does make me wonder if Rishi will have a little bit of a rethink, to be honest. That is, if he does actually survive after the next election. Because let's face it, it's hardly going to be brought in before then, is it? No doubt, because of all the months of stalling in the Lords, which of course seemed to happen quite a lot of the time. That Brexit legislation was trying to get through, didn't it? That's strange, isn't it? So it does make me wonder if this will also face a similar thing. I personally can't really see how he can bring such a thing in general, because wouldn't it seem a little bit strange? Imagine in 20 or 30 years time, where you got a 45-year-old perfectly able to buy cigarettes, but if you're 44, hang on a minute, you need some ID or a note from your mummy, I'm guessing, because otherwise you ain't getting no tobacco for you. I personally don't actually smoke, but I respect people's rights to do so. So any ban that takes freedoms away from people who are over 18 is completely out of order in my opinion. If people want to smoke cancer sticks, that's up to them. Let them deal with it. And yes, I know some people are going to say, well, it affects the NHS, but there are, I'm sure, a lot of other things that affect the NHS, not just smoking. But anyway, the article says that the new Kiwi Prime Minister, Chris Luxton, along with some lawmakers, believe a blanket ban on selling tobacco to a younger generation will lead to a lucrative black market for smoking products, which means, yeah, I kind of guess he's right. Many health experts are furious that New Zealand is now backtracking on what was seen as the leading policy worldwide on the fight against smoke and related illnesses and deaths. The mention of a smoke-free laws has been absent from any government policy during election campaigns, and the new Finance Minister, Nicola Willis, said on Saturday that the government would repeal the legislation. Well, next up we've got some good MOT news for a change. I mean, how often does it seem that we actually get any good news with driving nowadays? Especially with MOTs, they usually try to slap on loads more things, it seems. And this thing they have kind of slapped on, but it's actually for our benefit this time. Because according to the article, is that the DVSA has issued an urgent reminder to all motorists after a major MOT change. And that was from July. MOT certificates now include details about any outstanding recalls using real-time data. So if you've bought a car recently, but the manufacturer, let's just say, has taken their time to let you know about any such issues with your car, then they'll be found on your MOT certificate. So you can now just turn up to your manufacturer and go, hang on a minute, fix this for free, please, because it's a recall. And therefore, I'm guessing they'll probably have to look through their diary and fit you in as soon as possible because of that. So they'll be really happy, but thinking about it, it'll probably also affect the value of our cars as well, if any such recalls are still outstanding. So it is important to get these things done. Not only because it's bound to make your car more valuable, but also, it's quite a lot of these times these recalls are for safety reasons, aren't they? And the article says that posting on X, formerly known as Twitter, they always say that nowadays, don't they? The DVSA explained that car recalls now appear on your MOT certificate. If you have a recall on your certificate, your vehicle manufacturer should tell you what the fault is, what you need to do next, and who you should contact. Well, to be honest, in most cases that'll be your manufacturer, the ones who made the car. And according to the DVSA, motorists will usually not have to pay to get any faults fixed. Well, hang on a minute. If it's a recall, it should have been put right to begin with when it left the factory. Therefore, people shouldn't have to pay. But let's just put this into a bit of an example, shall we? If I had to book myself in for a penis reduction because I got 12 inches down there, and I still come out with a massive third leg, which I have to roll up every time I go for a wee, then I'd certainly need to go back down to the hospital and say, hang on a minute, you need to fix this problem. And of course, we occasionally hear this sort of thing from celebrities. Not that they have that done, but obviously a lot of the time celebrities have plastic surgery which goes wrong and they get it put right, don't they? Now, next up, we've got Boris has been thrown under the bus yet again, it seems, by none other this time than Kemi Badenoch. So what's he done then? Well, recently he's come out saying that for any people coming over here, legally that is, he suggested that they should be earning a minimum income of £40,000 before they're even eligible to come over here. Now, personally, I think that's quite a good idea, and that'd certainly cut down the numbers. And if memory serves, was a similar figure to what Suella Braverman said, which, to be honest, kind of makes me wonder if that's another reason why Rishi booted her out, because let's face it, even though he says he is, he doesn't appear to be in too much of a hurry to be dealing with the boats, does he? And that's illegal immigration, remember, not legal, so he'll probably be in even less of a hurry to deal with that, I'm guessing. So how can Kemi Badenoch, who obviously is a Brexiteer, disagree with him on that? As let's face it, immigration was one of the top sticking points of Brexit, if I remember correctly. But anyway, the article says that Kemi Badenoch criticised Mr Johnson this morning, however pointing out the record high migration figures that took place on his watch. And that is because revised ONS figures said that 745,000 net migrants entered the country in 2022, largely apparently while Boris was in number 10, and partly as a result of the policies implemented by his administration. And while Miss Badenoch refused to say whether she supported increasing the salary threshold for migrants, she pointed out that the figures we're looking at were the ones that came out while he was Prime Minister. But what people need to remember is while he was Prime Minister, we had a lot of COVID going about, didn't we? So surely there had been some sort of restrictions put on place with the amount of staff levels that were there to stop people coming over, I'm guessing. But then again, maybe not. But just remember, we were in a transition stage with the EU to begin with. And also, there are a lot of lefty-loving MPs in there, which we're seeing at the moment with the whole ECHR debate, which, let's face it, isn't exactly helping much at the moment. Which leads me nicely on to our next story. And apparently, dozens of migrants rescued from French waters, remember that bit? French waters by RNLI crew were of course brought back to Britain. So why? It doesn't make sense. If they were in French waters, shouldn't they have been towed all the way back to France? Or couldn't they have called a French ship and then put them onto there and then put them back to France? Because let's face it, it's French waters. I mean, you wouldn't see a situation reversed, would you, where people got in trouble into British waters and then got taken all the way to France, I'm guessing. I could be wrong with that, but to be honest, I'm guessing that wouldn't exactly happen. It does make me wonder, though, if when the people got on the lifeboat, or taxi shall I call it, the crew asked them where they'd like to go, because let's face it, they took them to exactly where they wanted to, didn't they? So how many future Labour voters got a nice free ride over here then? Well, the article says that lifeboat was called by the authorities in France after the engine of the migrants' boat failed. And it picked up 38 people who restarted their engine but refused to return to France. Although some migrants had been rescued by the French Navy. Some, I wonder how many, probably 2, I'm guessing. But those picked up by the RNLI were taken to Dungness, which is in Kent, and were met by ambulances. Which not only is a massive problem for our illegal immigration row going on at the moment, because let's face it, they should have been towed back to France in my opinion, but also for people as well, because while the ambulances were busy dealing with them and helping their way, making sure they're okay, they couldn't then help people who are having heart attacks or whatever else locally, could they? So who knows how much of a knock-on effect that would have had, and therefore it does put tremendous strain on our NHS and other public services, doesn't it? And it's something the government really does, in my opinion, need to sort out. But don't worry, because Dover MP Natalie Elfish, I hope I pronounced that right, said it showed the need for a new agreement for France to stop small boats leaving in the first place. She's totally right. She added, I'm very concerned that the French authorities are asking the RNLI to operate just off the French coast and then getting them to take migrants to England for medical assistance. No, absolutely not. I'm sorry. I should not be taking any orders or suggestions of the French authorities or crew whatsoever. They should just say, no, hang on a minute. I know we care about people's lives, but we shall operate in our waters, thank you very much. You take care of your waters, and if we do get people over here, we'll take them right back to you. But, of course, obviously that would require massive kahunas, which, let's face it, I'm guessing the government doesn't really have at the moment, do they? But I'll tell you this, they certainly would if I was in charge. Although, to be honest, thinking about it, it does make me wonder if the thing in this video will soon become actual government policy, in which case let's just hope it doesn't, otherwise we're all going to be screwed.